All right, good afternoon, everyone. Just want to welcome you to our exciting panel today. On behalf of the basement, I am Christine Moo, and we will be talking to a very special panel of students who happen to be transfer students. And the reason why we're specifying that they're transfer students is that this week is National Transfer Student Week. So in collaboration with the Triton Transfers Office, we want to remind everyone that we're here to celebrate our transfer Tritons and to make sure you use the hashtag UCSD Transfer Pride and tag Triton Transfers. Additionally, the office is providing exciting opportunities and giveaways. So make sure as an attendee of this, you will be able to enter in a drawing sponsored by the Triton Transfer Office. So just going over some housekeeping rules, make sure you mute yourself. There will be an opportunity to ask questions at the end. And without further ado, let's get started. So I just want to welcome you all again. My name is Christine Moo, Assistant Director of Operations at the Basement. I just want to spend a couple minutes going over a brief overview of what the Basement is, since we might have some new folks here in the group with us. So the Basement is essentially a student innovation hub. We help sponsor student entrepreneurship, and we're a resource for all UC San Diego students, whether you're an undergraduate or a graduate student. One of the benefits of the Basement is that we have a Blackstone Launchpad program, which is our annual program to help students develop their startup or social innovation idea. We provide funding, mentors, and really all the resources you need to develop your startup. We're also always innovating and creating new specialized programs. And some of the exciting programs we're offering this year include our Latinx Leadership Program, which focuses on empowering students with leadership skills and providing them with real-world experiences. And also, we're starting a new program called the Innovation Sprint, where students get to partner with local civic agencies to work on real-life situations to problems in our community. Here at the Basement, we really value community as well. So that's one of our main focuses. We know that UC San Diego is a large university, and it's important for students to find their own community. So here at the Basement, we help to foster that. And we also offer a variety of workshops and events. All of our events and workshops per fall are virtual, but we invite you all to attend and be a part of our community. So with that brief overview, we'd like to turn it over to our panelists of students and recent alums. So today with us, we have 4 students and recent alums, Isaiah, Eric, Riese, and Griffin. And I invite them all to give a quick introduction. And we will start off with Isaiah.
Hi, so my name is Isaiah Weiss. I'm a part of LearnSesh, and I'm from Fairfield, California. I transferred here from Boston College, and I'm graduating this class of 2020, studying biophysics and international business. So for the startup I'm a part of is called LearnSesh. What we've seen right now is that, especially with COVID, there's this choice people are having to make between pursuing quality education and safety. And even before that, there was always this choice between quality education versus convenient education, specifically referring to the dilemma of going in person and getting tutoring versus doing something online. So with that, we're using virtual reality to improve the effectiveness of in-person learning while providing the convenience and then safety of distant learning tools. So in our software, students and educators get connected in virtual reality rooms that are distraction-free, that can be customized, and their students can upload their homework, they can connect with their teachers, interact with dynamic 3D models, browse Google, use calculators, all the traditional tools you use, but now in a more customizable interface. So what we're really trying to do is transition education from text-based worksheets towards this more interactive and engaging content style learning that uses an Iron Man style interface. Our long-term goal is to allow educators to be able to make different types of simulations. We focus on STEM learning, so allowing a teacher to be able to create a simulation of dropping a rock in a pond, and then being able to change some of the variables, say the density of water, and then rewatching that simulation and see how those differences affect the outcome. So our long-term mission is to break barriers in education using virtual reality.
Great, thank you, Isaiah. And next we'll have Eric.
Hey, I'm Eric Shnell. I'm originally from Napa, California, up in the Bay Area. My major is mechanical engineering, in which I'm currently in my last year, hopefully to graduate spring 2021. Part of in Sixth College. And I'm the founder and CEO of Crater, where we're developing rugged portable 3D printers for printing military grade components in the field. So we work in collaboration with units out of the Marine Corps, the Navy, the Army, to develop 3D printers that are optimized specifically for printing real usable parts in the field using FDM technologies. Pretty typical type of 3D printer that if you've seen 3D printers, you've probably seen them. But we're basically ramping it up and making it so you can print usable parts wherever and whenever you may need them.
Great, thank you, Eric. And next we'll have Riese.
Hi everyone, I'm Riese. I'm from a really small town in Kansas called Baldwin City. I'm a computer science major. I transferred from Arizona State. I'm a Marshall student, so go Marshall. I'm graduating December 2021, and I'm the CEO and founder of a startup called Time for Survivors. We're the first survivor-focused reporting platform that redesigns the Title IX process for both survivors and universities. So for survivors, we give them a place to upload evidence, witness testimonies, and basically go through an initial Title IX interview, and they can lock that and seal that for as long as they want. And then on the university side, we create custom admin portals that allow them to communicate with survivors, and survivors can remain anonymous until they want to come forward. So we want to create a Title IX process that works better for everyone.
Great, thank you, Riese. And next we'll have Griffin.
Hi everyone, I'm Griffin Mittleman. I'm from Santa Monica, California, and I went to Santa Monica College before transferring to UCSD, where I have now graduated this past June as a cognitive science major, part of Sixth College, shout out Sixth College. And I am the founder and CEO of Savvy. Savvy is an online marketplace for sustainable products where we make it easy for people to know the impacts of the products they're purchasing as they're shopping. The way this works is we take in information from scientific articles, from businesses to understand the underlying environmental impacts of their products within manufacturing, within distribution, and more, and then compile that into a simple 1 to 10 scale so people understand the impacts of whatever they're buying in the process of purchasing. What this does is it allows people to live sustainable lifestyles without having to change their lifestyle. We make it so easy for people to understand the impact that we're ultimately making it possible for our whole society and e-commerce system to move forward to something that is more sustainable. And thank you for having me today.
Great, thank you so much for everyone for the quick introduction. So let's go ahead and jump into our first question for the group. So the first question we have is, where did you transfer from and how was your transition to UC San Diego? So can we have Eric start us off, please?
Alrighty. So I transferred from SRJC, Santa Rosa Junior College, which is a community college up in the Bay Area. My transition was, let's see. Sorry, reading the question again. My transition was pretty successful in that it helped prepare me to come to UCSD, and from UCSD, I was given a lot of the resources as a transfer to be able to take more advantage of kind of what I wanted to do. So coming from community college, I'm sure that plenty of the people in here who are transfers understand that you don't always have all the type of programs and availability at community college that big university like UCSD does. And to be honest, when I first transferred here, I got maybe a little bit too adventurous trying all the different clubs and organizations. In fact, Crater was first founded in my first year here at UCSD, while I was a member of 3 other organizations and also trying to do an engineering degree. So I may have gotten a little bit involved for a bit, but I was able to narrow it down on kind of my major focuses. And now with resources provided through UCSD and through programs like the basement, I'm able to both continue on to getting my degree, but also building company at the same time. And that's one of the benefits of a place like the basement, because you're surrounded by peers who are all in the same boat. And as you can see from the other panelists here today, we're also all kind of a similar background, very different backgrounds, but all transfers and all have gone through the same phase as well.
Great, thank you, Eric. And next we have Riese.
Hi guys. So as I said, I transferred from Arizona State. So coming from one big university to another, I didn't really know anyone when I came to UCSD, so my transition was a little bit rough. Kind of did the same thing Eric did, where I bounced around a ton of clubs, a bit off way more than I could chew, especially as a computer science student, trying not to drop out of college or fail out of college, as we talked about right now. But yeah, I eventually found my footing. Programs like the basement, programs like StartR are a great place if you have an idea to both build your startup and successfully complete your degree at the same time.
Great, thank you, Riese. And next, Isaiah.
So I transferred from Boston College where I was studying business, and then I took some time off to start a restaurant delivery service. And during this time, I realized that when I was at Boston, I was studying business to make money, and I started business to make money, but I realized I wasn't necessarily going to school previously for something that was interesting to me. So I applied to UC San Diego for physics, and then transferred there. And once I got there, being able to be immersed in all these different STEM courses was a really good way to get myself integrated. Being on campus too as a transfer, I was in the Village, so getting to, there's a really good community there, which was made the social life nice. I also was a SIGEP in Boston College, so I was able to transfer into Greek life here. So one thing though I did regret when I transferred here was not getting involved in more things in different clubs. So I was part of the musicians club and then part of Greek life, but I do, and as time went on, I got more involved in different orgs, and I realized that I'd been missing out that first year. But overall, it was a great transition. Sometimes it could feel like you're living in a bubble a bit on campus, but once I was able to push myself to get out, go find ways to get to downtown and go to the beach and things, it was a great transition here.
Great, thank you, Isaiah. And next we'll have Griffin.
Thanks, Christine. So I transferred from Santa Monica College, and that's where I'm from. So I had familiarity, I had friends, I had family, and coming to UCSD was tough. Coming to UCSD was scary. I had doubts. I remember in my first quarter here calling home and being like, I don't know if I can do this. This is really challenging. Just coming to the quarter system is challenging. And I think what I got from that and the initial transition was just, even when something is challenging, keep going forward. That's the time to not avoid what you need to do or get panicky or scared. It's the time to really prove to yourself that you can do it. And so I admit, I feel like a lot of transfer students do feel initial challenges, but there's also a certain thing about transfer students is that we're hungry. A lot of transfer students, at least the ones that I am friends with, and I'm friends with a lot of transfer students being in the Village, a lot of us feel slighted in some way, or that we need to prove ourselves. And I think there's a comparison that I see between being a transfer student and being an entrepreneur, where if you stay hungry, you're ultimately going to be ahead of the game. And so I feel like I've been able to take that transfer student attitude and run with it as far as I can.
Great, thank you so much, Griffin. That's a great way to kind of blend it all together, so I appreciate that. So the next question we have for you all is, how did you first think of your idea, and how did it transition from just an idea into something you knew you wanted to further pursue? So this would pertain to your startup or social innovation idea. And Riese, I invite you to share your thoughts.
Yeah, so my product works with sexual assault survivors. I was an advocate for my friend's Title IX process at UCSD, or not UCSD, at Arizona State. And I watched that whole process, and I kind of watched everything that they put her through and all the disconnects in the system. And I looked at it and I'm like, wow, these are a bunch of really big problems, and there's one really simple solution. We need to create increased communication between these departments and survivors, and we need to give survivors a space to save their assault until they want to come forward. So I sat down with her and we bought one notebook and we filled it all out. I think in just a couple days we filled an entire 70-page notebook with everything that we saw was wrong and every possible idea we could find to fix it. And it ended up becoming something we worked on together and into what it is today, which is a way for survivors to communicate with resources on campus and save their assault until they want to come forward.
Thank you, Reeve. And Isaiah.
So my concept for Learn Sesh actually started out as a VR office space idea. So I was working on a different startup at the time, and what I'd done is turn my room basically into an office, and I took whiteboard stickers and covered my wall, and so my wall covered in all kinds of writing, and I couldn't take it anywhere. So from there, I had this idea. I met a person in an innovation and strategy class. We took it through that course, and based off the positive feedback was when I decided, okay, this is something I wanted to do and further pursue. Then ended up applying to start our. After that, my business partner left though, and I met my current business partner, and he was like, the VR space, general collaboration is kind of saturated for business related solutions, but education's, there's a area to serve. And then once we showed the first version of our software to a tutoring firm, and the positivity, and they're like, we need this now. That was once it went from being an idea to something that was, I have turned into pursuing rather than fully pursuing a traditional job.
Great, thank you so much. And Griffin, how about you?
Sure. So Savvy started as nowhere near a business idea. And the way that it started was I was in Washington, D.C. at the Smithsonian Museum, and I saw an exhibit on currency and the history of currency. And what it got me to realize was that the value of currency is culturally ordained. It changes based on the time and place and situation. And the situation now is that we're in a climate crisis. And so I started thinking to myself, how can we correlate sustainable value with economic value? And the way in which it came to be was looking into how to value environmentalism and the impact of the environment in very digital terms, and looking at it in terms of how to look at this economically and how to look at this mathematically. From there, the question was, how do we get this out? How do we understand? How do we create a platform to make this easily accessible? And originally, it was just going to be a website where people could look up products that they had and ultimately find the environmental impact on those products, a scale from 1 to 10. And we've kept that 1 to 10 scale idea, but ultimately we're growing it out from just a website to something that is more business oriented. So it was from the Basements Converge program in summer 2019 that it started to grow just from kind of this abstract idea into something that was more business ready. It was then I started with the business model canvas, is then when I started really asking who my stakeholders were. And it was at that point that it started to shape up into what it is now, which is primarily a Chrome extension for understanding the environmental impact of sustainable products. And I think that change never could have happened without the impact of the basement. So I think the fact that you're all here and looking at this panel, I think already speaks volumes as to what you can accomplish.
Great, thank you so much, Griffin. And Eric, can you tell us a little bit more about your origin story?
Yeah, so I've always been making 3D printers ever since they kind of became popular. Back before though, it was because I couldn't afford a 3D printer. So I'd be making one, and a lot of times it'd end up more expensive than if I bought one in person. But I never kind of gave up and kind of kept building it. And that's something I carried over to UCSD. Now, I was working out of the Envision Maker Studio, which if you are unfamiliar with, is a great maker studio and resource on campus that you can use to, when we're not in a pandemic, make stuff and turn projects into reality. And through there, and an old conference as well called Ignite that used to be on campus, we met a retired Marine from Camp Pendleton. And he had some understanding of the background behind supply chain and kind of this push right now for integrating modern technologies into the armed forces. So he introduced us to units out of Camp Pendleton, 29 Palms, a lot of the Marine Corps bases and units in the area. And we learned that it's not just a factor of, in industry, 3D printing is used to make cooler new things, reduce costs, reduce supply chain. But when you go into the armed forces, they're doing it to save lives. When a supply chain is hung up, that can cost people their lives when they're overseas in conflict zones. And so their goal is to streamline the supply chain and provide manufacturing when and where it's needed, and to increase security of their own men. And we resonated with that, and we wanted to help however we could. And initially we started as strategic technical advisors, just guiding them in the development of their supply chain, revolving around implementation of stuff like additive manufacturing and also CNCs and other forms of manufacturing. But we realized quickly that typical commercial off-the-shelf 3D printers or other items like that were insufficient. They were, the Marine Corps, the Army, the Navy, everybody was trying to build around these 3D printers that were fragile, precision machinery that just weren't meant to be able to survive in environments that they go into. And so we decided that we would make a printer made for them as opposed to them having to adapt to printers. And that's where we started. And that's how we've gotten to where we are today.
Great, thank you so much, Eric. So as you can see, a lot of these ideas, all these startup ideas started with just an idea and then it developed into something more. So I invite everyone in this room, virtual room, to think about, is there a potential problem that you have a solution for, and just work on it, and you never know what it can come out from that. So thank you all for your inspiring origin stories. It's always fun to hear about how the original idea came from. So now I want to ask the panelists, how did you first hear about the basement, and how has the basement helped you in your startup journey? So now a couple of you touched upon this, but if you can maybe take some more time to highlight what the basement has done for you, how you got involved, and kind of give us a little background about that. Isaiah, could you start us off, please?
Yes, so I heard about the basement in an innovation class at Riese, and there the biggest thing that the basement did for us was connect us to a bunch of different mentors. I remember how amazed I was when the first time we were able to get free legal advice. We've talked to people about strategy, found experts in education, even some of the mentors. There's another mentor in the basement that they're working on a VR solution in education as well. So it was really great getting feedback from people who had already done things successfully and also are able to connect you to other people. So that, I would say, the networking and mentor feedback has been the biggest thing for us. In addition, it provides a form of consistency for us in terms of, having check-ins, and there's all the different programs going on that keep you engaged and going, even when, say, you feel like you're overwhelmed with midterms or something. It's like, hey, it keeps you driven. In addition, there's a lot of opportunities that just come out of it as well that were unexpected. Like right now, we're working with a team of master students from the global from GPS at UC San Diego, and they're helping us with our basically reevaluating our business model. So there's opportunities that come up that you don't expect. So it's definitely had a huge impact on us. And getting to do things like practicing your pitch. There are things that the basement helped us prepare for that we wouldn't have done or had as good a feedback on if we weren't part of it.
Great, thank you so much, Isaiah. How about you, Griffin? How did you first hear about the basement, and how has that helped you?
Sure. So back in winter quarter of last year, no, excuse me. So the prior year, 2018 to 2019, I heard about the basement through a class that I was taking called Social Entrepreneurship. In that class, I met someone named Diana who was already working the basement, has a startup called Vibrant. And from her, got inspired to reach out to the basement and understand what it was that you were doing. And at this point, Savvy was really just in the early stages of understanding even what it was. There was no business concept to it yet. It was just that abstract concept I mentioned before. So it was really something inspiring to be told, like, your idea is valid. Your idea is something that other people want to hear about and want to help grow. And that was what the basement did. Back last summer, being part of the Converge program allowed me 2 months to just focus on Savvy. And without that time, I really don't see Savvy being what it is now, or if it could have ever gotten to the level that it is now in terms of a business. Because really, the Converge program allowed me just that time to understand what it means to pitch, what it means to have stakeholders, what it means to have a business and not just have an idea. And I think by having that discipline around the idea, the basement gave me the opportunity to actually make this something bigger than what I could write on a paper. So from there, the basement continued to help. We were part of the cohort last fall, and just to meet with different mentors, to meet with other startup founders and just understand what they were going through and share stories. It's been a tremendous experience to be part of the basement. And I really miss it now, now that we are all working from home, to have that central location where my team and I could work and go and just dive into the work, is really a special thing. And I think without the basement, a lot of these startups, myself certainly, would not have gone to the level that they now are.
Great, thank you so much, Griffin. And for all of you who are wondering what the Converge program is, it is a summer program. It's in collaboration with the Academic Enrichment Program. It's an 8-week program where students work just on their ideas for 8 solid weeks. There's structured curriculum, and it's really like a crash course to help students start up. So Griffin was part of our 2nd year doing the program. This last summer, we wrapped up our 3rd year. So thank you, Griffin, for shedding that light on that program. Eric, what about you? How did you first hear about the basement?
Yeah, so there are a lot of awesome resources across UCSD for developing your ideas and building them out. And we just happen to start at the NSF I-Corps that's put on by IGE. That was kind of our first introduction into how to even make a business, what's a pitch, what's an executive summary. And after going through the process there, they recommended that we look into the basement. Unfortunately, the last cohort for the year at that time had already passed, but I had a couple friends who were already in the basement, so we may have snuck in a couple times and hung out. There are open hours, at least normally. And that's where we first kind of got to experience what has already been mentioned is the community down there, and that everybody's kind of building something and everybody's sharing and going through kind of the same environment. And we knew immediately that we wanted to get involved in it. So we applied the following year, got in. And since then, that was 3 years ago, we went through the accelerator track. And then last year, we became peer mentors. And this year, continuing on as peer mentors. And through all of it, it's helped provide us not only resources like education, classes, workshops, connections to different facilities, events, competitions that are going on, keeping us aware of the different things that we can take advantage of in our positions as student entrepreneurs, but also the vast advisory network that is really just, it's kind of a nexus. It expands out from there. You talk to a couple people, they're all advisors for the basement. They know a few people, and it just keeps going on and on and on. And from there, we've been able to build our network, build our understanding of both the market that we're in, the grander market. How do we even build a business? That's stuff that you can answer educationally and give a couple slides on it, but really you have to put it into practice. You have to have people who can guide you, who can give you recommendations based off their own knowledge. And the basement is really the nexus point for all of that to come together. And it's really been the biggest constant for us over the last 3 years. There's been other programs we've been a part of, other opportunities we've been part of. We've been part of plenty of accelerators at this point, but all the time, the constant has been the basement, and it's been a great learning opportunity, and we're honored to continue to be a part of it and help the community however we can going forward.
That's awesome, Eric. I can't believe it's been 3 years. That just shows you how quickly time has flown by.
Tell me about it.
Thank you, Eric. And Reese, can you share with us, how did you know about the basement?
Yeah, so I actually met the basement during Triton Transfer Day, May of 2019. And I applied for their fall 2019 cohort, and we were in the incubator track. And it kind of gave me that first sense of legitimacy, something that was just like an idea on paper. We had like a rough prototype and a really poorly put together pitch deck when we first applied. But getting in, I was kind of like, oh, this is an idea, kind of what Griffin said. This is an idea that someone believes in. This is an idea that someone thinks can make a big impact for Title IX reform. And then it also gave me a path to go down. It wasn't just me blindly shooting off into different directions, trying to figure out what works. It was a structured plan that really taught me, okay, here are the steps I need to go through. Here are the hoops I need to jump through. Here's the classes I need to take in order to become a better entrepreneur and a better leader for my business.
Great, thank you so much. And I really like the fact that you mentioned a leader too. Oftentimes, some students might think the basement is not for them because they don't want to start a business, but we also teach a lot of interpersonal skills that can help you not only during your time here at UC San Diego, but also beyond. So think about that as well. We're here to really incubate people in addition to ideas. On to our next question. What's one piece of advice you wish you knew before you became a student entrepreneur? So keep in mind that most of these folks here in the call are probably aspiring entrepreneurs or are thinking of going down that path. So you all are currently entrepreneurs. So what's one piece of advice you have for them? And Griffin, could you start us off, please?
I think this is the toughest question yet. So let's see. I think the one thing that I wish I knew before starting was understanding that having savvy, having something that I could grow and feel confident in and have a community of people around would make everything in my life better. You know, I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of people who are creatives need something to be working, like they need to be working on something. And with something as meaningful to me as savvy and as, you know, the climate crisis, having this helped my grades, having this helped my friendships and relationships. Having savvy has helped me in so many other parts of my life that if nothing else, what I've learned from this is go into it for the discipline, go into it for the experience. Because, you know, a lot of startups, you know, they work out, they don't work out, you know, but as long as you keep trying and keep at it, you're going to get a lot more than if you never started in the first place.
Excellent, very sound advice. Reese, what about you? What's one piece of advice you have for the group?
I would say ask for help early and often. I came into this thinking I knew everything about my idea. I thought I knew everything about how to run a business, and I just wasted so much time going in the wrong direction. I wasted so much time trying one thing out, finding out that it was wrong, and really wasting a lot of valuable initial time on going in the wrong direction. And if I would have just stopped and asked for help early and often, I would have saved myself a lot of headache.
Excellent, thank you. And what about you, Eric?
I think if I had to give one piece of advice, it wouldn't be something like, it would be probably earlier in the stage. It would be more to you right now is, and at the risk of sounding like a Nike ad, just do it. Like if you've got an idea, if you've got, if you're interested, now is the best time, despite everything going on in the world, despite also being a college student. In fact, being a college student is by far the best time to take a risk with something like this, because you already know that you've got some kind of stability, right? You're able to go to school. you're able to focus on your degree and your classes. So you don't have to worry about potentially a family or something else down the road. And I talk to a lot of people, other students who say, oh yeah, I want to get into entrepreneurship, but I'm waiting till after I graduate. And there's a lot of people across campus, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the benefit of being where you are right now is that you're surrounded by an entire network, entire community of like-minded individuals who are also trying to push towards their goals of building a company or building some kind of societal impact. And you're supported by them. You're supported by programs like the Basement, like the I-Corps, a bunch of different organizations that can help minimize your risk, because it is a risk. And I won't say that it's easy. In fact, it's incredibly hard to start a business and to also go to school. But it's also the time of the least risk, and it's the time where you can kind of take that leap and be able to be caught by the community around you in case you miss.
Well said, Eric. Thank you so much. And Isaiah, what about you? What's your piece of advice?
My piece of advice is, for whatever you say you find a problem, if you're going to go for it and be passionate about it. On my first couple businesses I identified different problems, but I wasn't passionate about it. So I didn't have that drive to wake up early and then stay up late when needed. I felt like we weren't able to quite get to that next level because it was something that was, I wasn't motivated by my own curiosity and desire to solve this problem, rather than oh, this is a great opportunity to potentially, make money or something like that. So I would say, whatever you do, be passionate about, and then find people and surround yourself with people who are also passionate about that. One of the best things that I've done is partner with my current co-founder, because his passion for transforming education motivates me and keeps me going and makes me want to perform better. And so find what you're passionate about, find others that are also passionate about it, and then do great things.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Isaiah. So we're going to now move it on to an opportunity for the audience to ask questions. So we had a couple questions come in. There's some great questions. So feeding off of Isaiah's piece of advice about passion and finding people who have that same view as you, Sarah has a question for the panelists. Based off of your personal experiences, is it better to choose people for your idea based off of experience or dedication? And I'll open it up to any of the panelists to chime in.
I think it just depends on what stage you're at. If you need someone who's an expert in that field, definitely pick them for their experience. However, for me, I found the best people are people who actually disagree with me. It's really bad to surround yourself around people who are just going to say yes to you all the time, because you're going to spin yourself in the wrong direction. You always want people who can add to your team with different ideas and different perspectives on the world, people who look different than you, have grown up in different places. All these add extra perspectives that you might not have been exposed to or ever experienced. And that really helps you create the best product.
And Griffin, were you going to share something too?
Sure. Yeah. I think, to jump off of what Riese said, I entirely agree. Finding the right people that you can make sure do the job is essential. But I would never sacrifice quality for, finding that right person sooner rather than later. I would always choose having the right person over having someone who's going to do a good job or a pretty good job, or just be someone you have to watch over constantly on your team. The number one most important thing for me is, do I get along with this person where I feel like I can work with them easily and intuitively and productively. And by doing that, the team flows so much more easily, and we wind up getting more work done because of it. And yes, that doesn't mean you should not look for people who can do the job. But if they don't also have those soft skills, those leadership skills, those things that make it easy to work with, then they're not probably the right teammate for me.
I would also say that experience you can gain experience through the process and learn things. So one of the lead developers on our team is They were pretty novice in terms of virtual reality development, but he was extremely passionate about what we were trying to build, and he was committed to learning. And since then, he's made some of the biggest contributions on our team. So I would agree with the previous comments that it's about finding people who you want to work with that are, passionate about what you're doing and are dedicated. Obviously, you need some threshold of experience, but a lot of times that can be overcome.
Excellent. Thank you, Sarah, for that question. So we have another question from Jonah. Jonah asks, is there a specific guideline for how you guys navigated the process of turning your idea into a viable product? And Bethel asked a similar question, how did the basement help you develop your ideas? I invite the panelists to chime in on that one.
I'll chime in. There isn't a guideline. No matter how many lectures you go to or workshops you attend from just tons of different people who are all successful, who will tell you this is the way that you build a product, this is the way you build a team, this is the way how you build a company. It's not a perfect science, and that's why it's so important to surround yourself with advisors and peers who are either doing it or have done it, or who have that kind of guidance. Because when it comes down to it, everybody is going to be giving you advice, and you should be trying to suck in as much as you can from those around you. But you have to make the decision in the end. It's your job as either a founder, a CEO, or some other role in a company in which you make decisions. And you have to take in all of that guidance and make the decision yourself to make a product or make a service. And it's going to be the combination of everyone else's input and advice to you.
Kind of bounding off that, I think the one thing that you can use to determine whether you should make your idea a product is see if you can find people who will either buy your product, use your product, or find a way that it's creating a societal impact. And if you can do that, that's kind of that big marker for, okay, maybe this idea, I should move forward with it for it to become a product.
I think one thing that a lot of people who have ideas do is sometimes they're too scared to talk to people and get that feedback. So being willing to go and talk to prospective customers and different mentors and people in the industry and getting that feedback, that for us, that was largely how we were able to shape our idea. It completely transformed from what we thought it would be to what it ended up as.
Great, thank you so much, panelists. Next question we have is from Austin. Austin would like to know, are your startups your full-time gig? If so, when and why did you decide that it was the right time to make it your full-time gig?
Mine is not my full-time gig, although it acts like it sometimes. I'm still a college student, so I'm right now seeking funding to make it my full-time job, eventually kind of looking at December 2021, turning into my full-time job, hopefully.
Do you want to go, Griffin? Or?
Go ahead. I'll talk to you.
So it is transitioned into a full-time job. And while technically to my professors, it's not, it has become kind of in that role. And it's really, I guess it's a sign of you're doing something you love, right? If you don't realize that all of a sudden you're spending 8 hours a day on your company as opposed to catching up and studying. Not that I'm saying you shouldn't be doing that, but I did actually come to the point in which I made the formal decision of this is my full-time job or full-time gig, and school is, let's say it's also a full-time gig, but it is kind of what's going on the side. I, of course, am making sure that I am keeping up with it, but I'm taking maybe less classes and taking a little bit more time. The result of that decision was I decided to take an extra year here at UCSD so that I can kind of stretch out those classes, take a little bit less at one time, and focus entirely on schooling. That doesn't work for everybody. That would happen to work for me. And that was kind of that's where I had to make that decision.
Yeah, my startup is not my full-time job. I have a job, but my startup is my full-time job in the sense that it is on my mind at least 40 hours a week. And so as soon as I can, essentially, when we have funding and when I've saved up enough, I plan to make it my full-time job where it really is the only thing on my mind work-wise. And just to address when did I decide that it would be the right time to be my full-time gig? I think I knew from the start. I think when I had this idea, and maybe some of the other starters will, some of the other founders will agree with this, I knew it was essential, and I knew it was something that needed to happen. And figuring out how to fit it into my life and making it part of my life was just the next challenge. Not so much that it was a decision of when, but how.
For me, I'm still working part-time. I've been lucky enough, I sell solar, so I'm able to work it in with the scheduling, but it's definitely, despite not being a full-time job, it is still, 40 plus hours a week of work. So my business partner, he has made that transition towards solely working on our venture. And for him, it was once he had basically saved up enough money where he felt comfortable, is when he decided to make that leap. And really, he didn't make that decision until we had people who were paying for what we're doing.
Great, thank you, everyone. Our next question from the audience comes from Bethel. What are some books you suggest related to business or entrepreneurship, and do you have a personal favorite? So as you all think about your favorite titles, this is perfect segue because our giveaway for this event, if you're a transfer Triton, is an entrepreneur starter kit. So hopefully one of the favorites from our panelists are included in our selection. So Eric, you're going to say your favorite?
Yeah, and I think Bethel, you asked the probably number one question that goes around in entrepreneurship is what's your book to go to? And personally, mine isn't specifically on entrepreneurship. It's called Never Split the Difference. And unfortunately, I'm forgetting the author, though I could look it up real quickly. And I'll type it in the chat in case you want to look at it. But Never Split the Difference, it's from a former hostage negotiator talking about how to negotiate and translating that into the business world or just the rest of the world. It's an excellent book for really learning how to interact with people, both in business, but also in your social life as well, to make sure that you come across clearly and that you get what you're hoping to get out of a conversation. Chris Voss, yeah, there it is, yeah.
I would say Guy Kawasaki's The Art of the Start. I mean, mainly because that's the one I'm reading right now, but just the way that he conveys information is super digestible, and it's also a pretty quick and easy read. And you also I learned a lot just in the first chapter alone. I felt like I learned what a whole course would have taught me.
I like Good to Great by Jim Collins. This is a book so Jim Collins is a Stanford business professor who basically ran the numbers on 1,800 different businesses and their levels of success over a 15-year period. And what he found was of those 1,800 businesses, only 11 fit these criteria of being superb. And so he went and interviewed the CEOs and the other executives of those companies to see what really made that difference of good to great. Tremendous book. They give you so many little bits of wisdom.
And I can't remember the name of the title of the book, but it was something about like building habits in 21 days and how you can transform basically your whole day. You can, by doing these small things every single day and building consistency, you can make your day to day a lot more productive. And I can't remember the name of the title.
Thank you, panelists, for putting your titles in there. Isaiah, is this book title of yours The Power of Habit?
I believe it's a different one. I'll look it up right now.
Okay, if you can share it in the chat, that would be great. So thank you all. So we have time for a couple more questions. Let me just scroll back up here. Diana asked, how do you handle a disagreement or conflicting ideals in your team or where they want the company to be or become? So how do you manage disagreements or conflicting ideas in a team for where they want the company to be or become?
I welcome them. I think there should be disagreements. I want arguments because I want people to be authentic. I trust that the people that are on my team have valid things to say and that they're intelligent. And so I welcome all of their thoughts. It's kind of what Eric said earlier about soaking in all the advice from your advisors and from the people around you. It is vitally important. You know, in order to make something that is comprehensive, you need to have something that is really thought through. And those sort of mini debates that we like to call them are thinking those through. So, and you can't think things through on your own, really. You need to have a team for that, for something that is as big as I'm sure you all want your startups to be. So I embrace them. I say, go with them, argue away, be authentic.
I'm the same. We strongly encourage people coming from different perspectives because it's not about doing it any one person's way, but doing it the best way. So for us, we want people to voice their opinions and help us make the best decisions.
And I would say to have an environment in which that's the case. You have to, that's when you help to develop a team or when you're part of a team, that isn't something that's always comes naturally, that you can have a debate or an argument and it be totally all right. You have to foster that in a team. And you have to let everyone around you know that even when there isn't a disagreement, that if they do have any kind of disagreements, to make it well known and make it so that they know that their opinion is entirely valued and valid. So creating that atmosphere beforehand allows for these interruptions, these arguments to happen, and people to feel safe in the environment to give their input, even if it's totally the opposite direction of what you just said, for example. And so it is your responsibility within a group, whether you're the leader in it or not, to help foster that kind of environment, to make it so those kind of interactions are feasible and possible, because that's really how you grow as a group and take the company in the direction you want it to go.
And just to finally add on, also to know that disagreements are okay and they're going to happen. So if you and your co-founder are fighting about an idea and you think, okay, like I need to find someone else, that's not the way to look at it. You need to know that disagreements are going to happen and you guys are going to work it out, and it will in the end make your product and your company a whole lot stronger.
Excellent. Sound advice from the panelists. Thank you. So in the interest of time, we're going to move on. I know there's a couple questions we didn't address. Panelists, if you are open to it, you would like to provide your contact information in the chat, and students or attendees can follow up with you if there's specific questions. Some of the folks on the panel are also part of the basement program, and some of the questions that came in are from our current cohort. So please connect with each other on our Slack channel. And Elijah, I did want to point out, we will have an event coming up tomorrow that addresses your very question. So stay tuned in just a couple minutes. So to go forward, in honor of Transfer Appreciation Week, we are having a basement sticker design contest. So if any of you on the call right now identify as a transfer student and you like to create graphic design work, I invite you to participate and enter in the contest. There are cash prizes available made possible by the Triton Transfers Office. These are some of the examples that our previous student interns have made, but we're really excited to have our greater community provide artwork that we'll be using for our marketing. And I mentioned that the basement has a wide variety of events. So just want to highlight some upcoming events that we have. So Elijah, this is for you. And for anyone else who just wants to know, how do you just manage wellness and find balance when you're running a business, being a student, and just taking on all the things that are going on in our everyday lives? Tomorrow, we're having a special panel focused on wellness called How to Thrive as a Human and an Entrepreneur. With a panel of 4 individuals who have who are currently running their own startups and their small businesses. 2 of them are UCSD alums, and they're all local here in San Diego. So they're going to talk about imposter syndrome, what it feels like to find balance, and they all are working our startup ideas around wellness. There's a couple questions earlier about how do you kind of find validity in your idea, like how do you go on to the next step? We have a workshop coming up called Customer Discovery. This workshop is a hands-on workshop that will teach you how to ask the right questions to find the correct customers for your product or service. So it's a really helpful first step for you if you're starting out in your startup journey. And we all know networking is crucial when it comes to entrepreneurship and also just connecting with other folks. So we have an Innovating Your LinkedIn Profile workshop in collaboration with the Triton LinkedIn group. So if you have a LinkedIn profile, but you need some help kind of sprucing it up and making the most on LinkedIn, I invite you to attend that workshop. And we also have another session. This is a joint collaboration with Open Dialogue. Open Dialogue was a basement team in the Converge program, but they focus on exploring controversial topics in a safe community. So I invite you all to talk about cancel culture. So that's coming up in November, which is just around the corner. So this is just a small sampling of a wide range of events we have. So I invite you to bookmark ucsdbasement.eventbrite.com. That will give you a listing of all of our live events. We just ask that you register through Eventbrite, and then you'll get the Zoom registration similarly like you had for today's session, and then you'll be able to join us on those sessions. And if you didn't have enough of the student entrepreneurial panel, we have another one coming up next week in partnership with the San Diego Startup Month. This is on Tuesday, October 27th. 2 of the panelists you see here, Riese and Isaiah, will also be on that panel. So they'll be speaking from 5 to 5:45. This panel is in conjunction with San Diego Startup Month, which is a community-wide event. There is a fee for the tickets, but with the social code UCSD-SDSM, you can get free tickets for the remainder of the conference. So it's not just this panel, there's a wide range of startup-related info sessions and events, so I invite you to check it out. There are limited quantities available for the tickets. And additionally, I invite you all to stay connected with the basement. Social media is an easy way to stay connected. Our handle is UCSD Basement. If you haven't had a chance to do so, I invite you to check out our website. It's thebasement.ucsd.edu. Take a look at more information about our programs and other events and all the other things happening here at the basement. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to our newsletter. It's the Basement News. And those, if you have any questions, feel free to email either myself directly or the general email listed there, as you can see. So I just want to give a special thanks to our panelists for their time today. We hope you found this as rewarding and fruitful as I did. It's always just inspiring to hear from students. And also, if you are interested in entering in the raffle, we have 2 raffles going on. So we have one through the Transfer Student Success. I'm going to drop this in the chat. So the first one I just sent out, this is through the Transfer Success office. If you enter in that, fill out the survey, you can get entered in the raffle. And then we are doing our own raffle as well, which I'm putting in the chat as well. That raffle is an opportunity to start your entrepreneurship book starter library kit. So you get to choose your top 3 options, and then we will select a raffle winner later today or early tomorrow. We'll email the folks who won and also share that information on social media. So that I'll leave the screen up, but thank you all for joining. Special thank you to Isaiah, Eric, Griffin, and Riese for another fantastic panel. And we'll be here for a couple more minutes if you want to hang around. And thank you again, and we hope to see you all soon at another event. Thank you.